Well, have you ever had a kid or a pet maybe, or just a person you've known that never's really had any attention before, and then you give them some attention and they want more attention. So you give them more attention and then they get more attention. So they become kind of greedy and needy. So you got to kind of balance, you know, how much attention you give to one kid. You got to tell the kid like, hey, you've got other kids in the family. There, you know, some of these others need love. You know, we pulled all the dents and we yanked out the driver's side and got rid of the ugly, finally got trim on him, and we put all new shocks on him. He's bouncing all over the road. We put a bunch of brake lines in him. Matter of fact, look at this. And I was one more brake pedal away from totally not having any brakes. I don't know how those front lines, but they are the original cracked up crazy lines. He got a new used motor. So about a week or so ago, I tapped him on the dash, said, you know what? We're not giving you as much. We're going to drive you a little bit and enjoy you so I can work on some other projects. And I took him to work, was driving to work the other day. All of a sudden he makes some crazy loud noise, bangs, sparks were shooting out from underneath. I was stuck in an area that you couldn't pull off the side of the road, and out from underneath spit the damn drive shaft. So I had to drive home in good old two-wheel drive, and I had to have a shop. A friend of mine custom make me up a new drive line because they don't make these for anything. So we're gonna pull him on the lift, give him a drive line, as we explain to him that we have other things to do and he cannot be getting all my attention all the time. So let's stick you on here. Got to pull you in a little bit further on two-wheel drive mode. And let's take my drive line here. We'll take your freshly painted drive line so you're not a front-wheel drive car anymore. Make you four-wheel drive again. Give me a second. Magic up button. Ramcharger. Go up. To the sky. Oh, the things I did before I had a lift. Took me many, many years and a lot of hard work to be able to get this. Alright, so this was not as much fun as it should have been. Just imagine that when a drive line blows apart and goes spinning and spinning while you're driving down the road, that it doesn't exactly take its bolts out nicely and pull everything apart nicely. But the good news is the yokes are in good shape and they're solid that way. Unfortunately, we had some broken bolts inside. Actually, it was inside that one. I had a completely broken, getting some light that's a little bit better. This is one of the U-joints that was still attached to the rear end with one strap blown apart. And I've got one of the straps, one of the broken bolts. We have a broken bolt there. That was snapped off. That's just another end cap. Another bolt. Here's all those. I basically had to, one of the bolts I actually put a left-hand drill bit on. And this one of the bolts I put a left-hand drill bit on and it popped it right out and it came out nicely. I thank you for that. This lovely guy, if you look inside, I had to drill it out with a left-handed drill bit and then it still didn't move. Heated it up with the torch, hit it with a bigger drill bit, it still didn't move. Hammered in an easy out. I thought I was going to break the easy out. It fought all the way out. but she's out. So I will get the new one in and see how we go. Oh, I don't know if I've ever shared this before. You see my awesome invention idea? I was watching a car show months before I built this shop, and I think it was actually a Jay Leno episode. They were showing the bottom side of a car, and he was holding this big flashlight to look at things, and I was thinking to myself, God, wouldn't it be nice to have a light in your floor shining up under a lift? And then I thought to myself, I know how to do that. So I welded up a box. I custom ordered a 2-inch thick piece of plexiglass that custom fits the box. Ran conduit under the ground before we built the concrete. Ran right over to that lovely switch there. Now when I'm working underneath the lift, I have light. Tell me what you think of it. I thought I'm pretty crazy smart for that. Also, side note of, I actually reinforced that box, made it super heavy, and used like really strong, thick plexiglass, because in my head I thought that way when you drive on it or drive over it, it won't crack or break and it's strong. And then never really thinking about it, if you're driving over the top of that light while you're going into this hoist, you messed up somewhere something fierce. And so realistically, it does not have to be that. You're never, ever, ever going to drive on it. So that's that. Well, let's get to throwing this driveline in and see where we get. Now remember, children, this is the front end. This is the back end. It mounts up here to this spinny gear thing that attaches to the shifty magooger that hooks to the engine thingy that takes liquid, turns it into fire, makes big bangs, comes out of this, goes down to here, goes into this pumpkin thing, and then magic happens from pumpkin thing, makes those round rubbery things spinny so we can go down the road. And the more vroom vroom you got up there, the faster spinnies you got back here. So, see? It's an educational channel. We're going to learn some things today. Magic makes tires go round from this going roundy round. All right, let's throw this in. All right, Mr. Ramcharger. I just had to go outside and scream at the moon for a second. I just retaped the rear U-joint. One, being that there's straps on the front and on the back, I kind of never realized how hard it is to put a driveline in by yourself in a hoist. Normally on a creeper you can hold the driveline up with your legs, as you can use both hands to put the straps and the bolts in. And in here I'm trying to hold the driveline on with one hand and hold the joints in together and put a strap in and hold the strap with one hand while trying to tighten the bolts up with the other hand that's holding the driveline up without having it fall on my head. And I finally get the front end in, like yay. And I can get back here to put the rear in, and the rear yoke was, you know, offset a little bit, and the driveline wasn't quite in the right angle, so I need to center up that yoke a little. So I go to the tire and I spin Mr. Tire, and the yoke does nothing. And I'm like, oh, it's an open differential, you know, it's not posi, that won't turn. Then I looked at that tire and I spin this tire, and I'm spinning that tire right now, and that tire does nothing. And then my mind's still tired, like, well, that's just because this is I'm turning the turny thing where the magic happens in there. It turns these, and it's not supposed to. There's no play here. It's solid. I mean, it's you're supposed to. This turns. Those turn. Those they're not turning. I come over here and I take this tire and I turn this tire, and that tire is either supposed to go the same direction or the opposite direction depending on, you know, magic in that thingy. And I go this direction, it does nothing. It goes this direction, it nothing. And so maybe it's only a one-wheel differential. Maybe that one just breathes free. So if I turn this one, it... Oh. So I'm thinking, when I was driving down the road, the driveline didn't break and blow the joint and bounce down the road and about take the car out from behind me and throw sparks everywhere. I think the spinny thingy in this back stopped. And when it stopped spinning, while tires were still spinning, the driveline went bye-bye and went pew. So, yeah, let's, you're being a needy bitch. All right, let's take the driveline back off. By the way, remember me complaining about how hard it was to take them. All right, let's see if I can take it off without losing the needle bearings or losing a cap off. And let's see what kind of damage we got. Stay tuned. All right, now remember I said I've been giving him lots of love. So when we gave him brand new shocks and went through it, I've checked all fluids. Our oil is full. You know, there's plenty of stuff in there. And even when I stick my finger in, and it's not metallic-y. I see a little bit. I mean, you would think it would just be gleaming like glitter. But any of y'all wondering it was running dry, I mean, she's got oil. So we're going to take zippy zips and, you know, there's orange silicones all over it. I don't know why it has orange high heat. And apparently this differential gets super hot because you need a high heat silicone. But, all right, let's take this all off, and it's kind of hard to do with one hand, so let me put this down. Oh! All right, and we have a rainbow of differential color there. I put the screwdriver in. I've got a bolt left in the top. Let's pull this cover off. Huh. Last I checked, things aren't supposed to go clunk in the oil. We have ourselves, it looks like a magic piece. All right, Chinese throwing star. I think this goes in there somewhere. We'll save this in our one Chinese throwing star. All right, get our bolt off here without dropping the pan and making a big ass mess of myself. All right. Now we have Chinese throwing star number 2 with some nice metal thingies sticking out of it. Ooh, hey there. So Chinese throwing star with a nice metal gash, and metal, ooh, that's a nice one. And there's some washers, there's metal things falling down. Yeah. right. I'm thinking that this is supposed to go in this Chinese magic star. That's supposed to maybe hold, that magic throwing star, and these stars spinny spin. That makes this gear spinny spin. More metal pieces and more metal pieces. And more chips in there. I'm actually really surprised the ring's not completely shattered. Side note differential, or you see people all the time weld up a differential to make it posy. This is kind of the opposite of that. They weld up the ring and pinion, or the spiders in here, and that way it locks the tires together, and you don't have a one wheel wonder. You got everything spinning, making the magic do the magic. But there's a lot of play in that ring to the pinion. We've definitely had a lot of metal going around in there. Well, let me push pause for a second and evaluate my life a little bit. Well, I had some time to reflect and went and sipped on a little chocolate milk. Nice cold though, it has to be really cold. And if I wanted to be cheap and horrible, I could probably grind and clean that down and weld fix the pin and hammer that gear back in there and see if I can even turn that. Weld the pin. The gear definitely gets stuck. There's definitely a hard spot right in that pinion. Weld it together, either make it kind of have spiders or make it posy-ish. Throw a bunch of sawdust in the differential with a bunch of oil, put it on the ground, and it would move under its own power and sell it. And I'm not that kind of person. I'm not going to screw somebody and do something that bad, so I'm not going to do that. And if you're wondering why I said sawdust, if you've never heard that before, a old car trick or used car scammy thing, you got a rear end making noise or running bad, you take some fine sawdust and you throw it inside the differential and fill it up with oil and run it, and the sawdust kind of meshes in the teeth, and it actually makes the rear end really quiet and runs pretty good. I've actually tried that on an old beater, and the rear end lasted a few years like that and ran very long, and it was very scary. But it is 9:30, 10 o'clock at night on a Friday. I'm going to do some research on gears and spiders and pieces and parts and see what that's going to cost. I think I might know or have a differential that might work. Yeah. So, I wanted to work on that tomorrow. That one. It's got a heater cord needs to go in it, and I got to weld up the firewall still, and I got to finish welding on it and take it off. Like, it needs to go on the hoist because I got to take the body off and clean up the frame, finish the frame, and I have to undercoat it, get all the undercoating done. You're not supposed to be there. All right. Well, I'm gonna go to inside. I'll come out tomorrow morning and I'll have a plan. Huh. One other thing before I run inside and play on the internet to depress myself on pricing, I really need to know, what is that? What gear ratio and what do we have going on? You know, there's good old things about jack the car up and spin your tire and count how many times the pinion goes round and round for rotation of your tire, and put a mark on that and count it, and it'll get you really close. Well, yeah, and that doesn't work for us. The magic's broken. So no matter how I spin this, it's not going to tell me how many rotations the front one is, or the yoke is. Secondly, there's sometimes a tag on the differential when someone takes the differential cover off. Most idiots take that little tag and they throw it away and they don't leave it on the bolt. But actually, even though they rattle canned it a beautiful factory not yellow, because nothing screams look at me like a bright yellow pumpkin, but they actually did leave the tags. So if you look close, one of our tags says 3.2, which, to be honest, I thought it had a 355 or 392, which means that explains why it's kind of not really a tire smoker and rips off line. It's just a kind of more cruiser, which also means why we're not going to get big tires put on it. But what if those tags are wrong? Then I'll hear a lot of people scream, oh, you just got to take the plate off and look at the ring and pinion, and it's stamped on it sometimes, most of the time. Which, on this one, it actually is. If you look right there, 3.2. So it is a 3.2, so that's not even the wrong tag. And to quadruple verify, the same tag is on the front differential, says the same thing. And the tag under the hood for this 87 Dodge Ramcharger says 3.2 gear ratio. So I'm going to go see how much a 3.2 rear end parts and pieces, and decide if I'm towing this outside for right now, or I guess technically I can still drive it in front wheel drive Honda Civic mode and decide what to do. Well, it is now Saturday. We have done some research, and gears and thingies are, well, they don't give them away. And I really don't want to spend $700-800 in parts in a rear end and spend a bunch of time rebuilding that. So option 2, wham! We got ourselves a 91-ish half-ton with it even has the little tag on it. It's a 3.2. It's the right gear ratio. I opened it up. The gears are clean and nice. The brakes are no bueno. The brakes on that are also not great, so it gets brakes too, since you're there. I'm gonna tear this down. This does have the ABS brakes up on top that this does not have, so it's really no big deal. You just don't plug it in or don't use it. I'm going to start tearing apart on this. I've already kind of got into it a little bit and tore the brakes out. One side I've been soaking with some little PB on the bolts and on the brake line. We will heat them with a little torch, a little bit of heat, and see how quick we can get this guy down, back out, and we'll probably have to run down, get some shoes and hardy wear inside there. The drums were, that drum wasn't bad, but you can see all the brake dust in it. There's a little bit of a lip on the edge. The other one's got a pretty big lip on it. Actually had a heck of a time getting the drum off. So, depending on what I can find and what I can get in between the parts that are there and the parts that are here, and hopefully in a couple hours this is running under its own power again. See where we're at. Well, if my calculations are correct, We push magic green button. Well, that's probably going to fall and hit me in the head while I'm trying to do the other piece. And this goes here. Wedgie side faces backwards. Changes pinion angle. Don't want to get those backwards. All right. Get it a little higher so I don't bonk my head. Muscle that very light differential down. Yeah, what's funny is you look at the size of that differential, and I would swear that was a 3/4 ton or 1 ton rear end. You look at it outside and like, that thing's huge. That's what you look at other auto manufacturers, half-ton rear ends, and they're itty bitty little things. And yet this one still blew apart. These are kind of the bulletproof rear end, but it doesn't really look like it broke as much as the pin moved, sheared, whatever, and rotational mass told it bye-bye. All right, swappy swap time. Well, the brand new used rear spinny thingy hung up. I just called, got all the brakey parts in town, so I'm going to jump in a rig, drive town, grab some brakes, slap brakes in it, put the drive line back in it, lower it back on the ground, pull it out. Yay. All right, we'll tear into the brakes. Just hose that one down. Hey, look, money. A lot more money. So let's throw more money at it. All right, throw the brakes on. See where we get. Spend some time on a wire brush. A little rattle can primer. And there. All new brakes, at least on one side. I will say that for brand new pads, having a spot that looks like that, absolutely horrible. You get absolutely garbage parts anymore. But, all right, get the other side knocked out. All right, all new brakes, all new oil, checked everything inside. Now it's time to completely rebuild it and give it the fresh. Oh yeah, there we go. Oh, gotta make the block look like it's new. Heck, I might even make new springs. Look at that, new springs. It's moving under its own power. It's in 2-wheel drive. We just bled the brakes. The wife's going to go around the block, make sure it goes forward, back, and stops. Well, she's back, all in one piece, making no noise. So now I can work on his brother, sister. We haven't figured these guys out yet, but I'm looking at the parts and pieces, and it kind of reminds me of my little white trucks. Oh, the little white diesel, 70 diesel truck that I built, and I used an 01 2500 Cummins for its donor truck. And I thrashed on that truck. And I used to take it and spin donuts. I'd neutral drop it, go out in the field, and just romp on it before I tore it down, just kind of quote unquote testing it, having fun with it. and taking garbage out with it and using it for whatever. And then I pulled it in and stripped it apart and took it apart. And I drove it in and it was fully driving. Back in, the rear end had a little noise, but wasn't bad. I thought I was just gonna rebuild it or put some bearings or something in it. And I popped the pan or the cover on that rear end, and half the pinion fell out. Every other gear of the ring gear was falling on the ground. It makes this look like nothing. The spiders were broken out, and yet it was driving. It was running. Like I said before, the magic that happens in the differential, the magic was still holding together in that one, and yet it was in multiple pieces. And so I ended up putting a very overbuilt rear end in that little monster because of all the power it makes. But that was my day. So it's mid-afternoon on Saturday. It's buck and running. Ramcharger, we're done with you for a while. Sorry.